say definitely yes.
So this is not the argument of the chicken and the egg. This is the argument is we have to tell them what we want to do and what we can do, and they will tell us which one they will allow us to do.
Correct.
I mean, they could say we could reskin it, and we could choose to not reskin it and spend the more money. That would be our choice, but we can't go the other way around. So we don't really have a control, other than we have to propose to them, this is what we need to do, and this is how we'd like to do it. Would you go along with it?
Correct.
Okay.
Question, then, with the $30,000 we're talking about for the design and engineering, does that include, last paragraph, what the city's recommendation is to approach a project, which would be reskinning? So for the expenditure of that $30,000, will that be a formal presentation saying what our desire is?
That is the way we will present our permit.
So it is a necessary step in order to make our point that there is approval to move forward, I would think, with the $30,000 for the engineering.
Debbie?
This is a little bit off question, but what's the life expectancy of these new signs?
The skinning of them, I am not 100% familiar. The normal signage is 7 to 10 years. So the vinyl that we have placed, we have several that have, the material that we're going to use is currently up there. What's up there now is a vinyl. Mark Gearing has indicated it is a vinyl coating on there. So we are thinking they've lasted this long with minimal repairs. Well, how long has it been on?
Well, my question is more to the fact that we're getting ready to do a master plan. And what if something really wonderful comes to our city? Are we going to have to spend another $150,000 to do, like a whole bunch of more signs? Or do we just go, are we allowed to just add something to one sign? Or is the life expectancy of a sign, according to FDOT, what we get approved this time?
That I really don't know. I think the way that they are going to be designed is going to be in place for quite a while. We've made some changes on them with just adding the vinyl sheet, so it would take quite a few years, I would think, to rechange them and make, come up with something different. They will have the new logo, which is what we have now, which is what we're proposing now. So I don't see that as changing. The verbiage that was discussed at the past council meetings, that will remain for the most part the same. So there'll be nominal changes, and unless we go to a completely different signage program.
Well, but I'm not talking about like a whole signage. I'm saying you've got a sign and it says go this way for this and go this way for that. Well, what if we add to our city landscape another this? Do we have to go back to
We may
FDOT
have
and get
to go,
the whole thing
we would have to go
redone?
back to have them reskinned again.
Okay.
So,
Thank
for
you.
the text changes that we're proposing.
Lynn?
What kind of ballpark idea are we talking about for the actual manufacturing and installation portion of this project?
It's included on the sheets that are in there.
I didn't see that.
So we're looking at, depending on whether it's a new facing sign. If it's a new sign, it's the $136,000. If it's just the reskinning, we're only looking at $50,000.
You do have the
The
figure is the
installation
same for
charge is
installation.
included with the manufacturing.
So, I'm reading here, it says,
8,000.
where is it? The cost does not include manufacturing and installation costs. And so the 50,000 versus 136,000, that's the manufacturing and installation costs?
The $30,000 does not include the manufacturing and installation costs.
Right.
The $30,000 is just for the permitting process. The additional the $50,000 and $136,000 to do the job includes the manufacturing and the installation costs.
Okay, that wasn't clear.
Okay,
So if we can reskin, it's gonna be 50,000?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
There is a,
Those, again, are planning estimates. That is what we were able to
Right.
put together with the information we were given.
It's just a very, very broad spectrum of
We
money.
understand.
We do have a definitive $8,000 for manufacturing and installation in the paperwork, and that's the same regardless of, obviously, whether it's just a skinning or a brand-new sign. So we do have that broken out.
Yeah, I move for approval,
I second.
What are we moving to approve?
to approve the appropriation of $30,000 for engineering.
For the permitting?
Yes.
Okay. I
So
understand.
there's been a motion and a second to appropriate the funds of $30,000 for the design and replacement of the wayfinding signs. So, any other discussion?
Just to be clear, so we're only approving the 30,000 and not the rest of the statement?
That is
that's
correct. We
been-
don't know.
Right.
We have no idea what
Okay.
FDOT will come back with. So, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, citizens' comments. You have citizens' comments on anything CRA related. So you have 3 minutes. You can come to the podium and okay. Seeing none, then we'll have commissioner comments. Jaha?
None?
Nothing.
Nothing?
I'll see you at the charrettes.
See you at the charrettes next week, absolutely. Charlie?
Oh.
Joe?
Again, with the, as Jaha has mentioned, we should have every emphasis on getting detailed costs to the remainder of this project. It behooves us to, and staff, to move as quickly as possible to come back with those defined expenses, so we can get this thing addressed and over with.
Talking about the
Our
wayfinding?
wayfaring program.
Well, we all know how difficult challenging it can be to, working with FDOT. And you and I were on the county's landscape committee.
Absolutely.
And we know what we went through there. So I think taking this first step is going to help us get what we need to know.
And my understanding is we had to take this step to be able to go to the next step anyway. So
Yes.
I'm tickled pink that we've
Yeah.
gone this far so that we can.
And thank
get
you to
that
staff for the information. Debbie, do you have comments?
I just accidentally hit my mic. Sorry. I don't have any comments.
All right, thank you. The meeting is adjourned, and we will reconvene as the Punta Gorda City Council.
One of us has got to go on a diet, Charlie. I'd like a divorce.
But you loved your hubby. Medical marijuana. It'll lay you back a little bit.
I need brain acupuncture.
Okay. Punta Gorda City Council is back in session. We have two ordinances, a second reading of two ordinances, and I'll let David introduce.
Well, we'll need citizen comments
Oh,
on the
that's
two
right. We need
ordinances.
citizen
These are not public hearings, but we do accept citizen comments.
Citizens' comments on the ordinance related to the radio, the amateur radio antenna heights, another ordinance on parking specifications for electric vehicle parking charging station facilities. Any citizens' comments? You have 3 minutes. Please come to the podium. Seeing none, then let's start with the second reading.
Yes, this is the second reading of an ordinance, which will read by title only. An ordinance of the city of Punta Gorda, Florida, amending Chapter 26, Article 8, Section 8.3, Punta Gorda Code, providing exclusions from height limits for radio antennas and deleting provisions relating to a waiver from height limitations, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Anyone have any comments on
Yes.
this? Gary?
I think we've been discussing this for many years. I think we know where we're at, so I'd like to take the opportunity to move that we accept ordinance ZA 0918.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve ZA-09-18. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Finally.
Yes, glad for the radio, amateur radio operators.
Next is ZA-10-18, which is the second reading of an ordinance, which I'll read by title only. An ordinance of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, amending Chapter 26, Punta Gorda Code, known as the Land Development Regulations, amending Article 10, Parking and Loading, Section 10.3, Parking Specifications, by adding new subsections J and K to provide for optional electric vehicle parking and charging station facilities, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Any discussion on this item?
Move approval of ZA-10-18.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve and a second of ZA-10-18. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, consent agenda. Moving on to the consent agenda, would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda? I'm seeing no. Then we'll take citizens' comments on or consent agenda items only. That's the approval of the minutes, an invoice for the legal department, the renewal of the city attorney agreement, monthly litigation report, and the utilities department a resolution accepting the bill of sale for the Piper Road water main to the city. Any comments on consent agenda items? All right, seeing none, then we'll move into the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So we will move to the regular agenda items. We will start off by taking citizens' comments on regular agenda items. That's the award of the agreement to Marine Contracting Group for general marine construction services, appropriation of funds for project and award of CEI services, agreement for Alligator Creek pedestrian bridge, a presentation by the Punta Gorda Boaters Alliance, and the Peace River Wildlife Center lease on Dundee Road, and the citywide master plan economic and budgetary analysis, initial findings. Anyone would like to make a comment on those items? You have 3 minutes. Please come to the podium. Please state your name. Thank you.
John Byrne, 2520 Rio Grande Drive, Punta Gorda. On behalf of the Punta Gorda Boat Club and the 1,200 users of our building, we'd like to thank John Welsh and the Boaters Alliance for the work they've done to develop the waterfront master plan and getting it done under somewhat difficult follow-up work in time for the overall master plan. So we thank you for doing that. This is a critical matter for our boat club and our users, and we look forward to developing more concrete concepts for our building renovation or replacement next week. And we'd also like to thank the City Council for making this a priority as well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. Pat Campagna, Peace River Wildlife Center. They say that good things happen to those people who wait. And we know all about waiting at the Peace River Wildlife Center. But through the waiting, we have been provided clarity and direction about our future needs. The number of injured and orphaned animals continue to increase exponentially. Our rehab, hospital, and surgical areas need to grow if we are to address these burgeoning numbers. The property under consideration by City Council will enable us to build a proper hospital and surgical area, but equally important, it will allow us to build larger cages and give us space to expand, more appropriate caging that will facilitate speedier recovery and result in more successful outcomes. As a byproduct of moving these services out of Ponce Park, We'll be able to reduce the size of the building and pond, saving a considerable amount of money. We will be allowed to build larger enclosures for our current residents, provide a more intimate experience for our visitors, and allow us to provide more exhibits with perhaps larger mammals. We are grateful to the City Council and the city staff for their continued support. We are grateful to the community, and we are grateful to our volunteer and supporters, as well as our building team, which includes ADG Architectural Design, Tolles Corporation, and Wilder Engineer. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Peterman, 713 West Retta.
Good morning.
I'm a member of the Historic Committee's Waterfront Committee, and I'd like to cede my time to Larry Yeager.
Morning, everyone.
I
Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
don't know that we haven't agreed. David, is there
We've always done this. Anytime we've had any people, we've done this several times, people have done this. This is not an irregular action.
It certainly is the prerogative of the city council to allow a citizen more time. If the citizen asks for it, it's not appropriate for people to come up and give their time to somebody. So it's sort of a matter of semantics. But if you feel like you'd like to give this gentleman more time after the 3 minutes have expired, that's a council prerogative by
So-
consensus.
Are we saying that John Peterman is asking us to please give the time, Debbie?
Well, I think because he represents the homeowners association, that we probably, in order to give them a voice, should
Okay,
allow this.
So John Peterman's asking for that? Okay, thank you, then we will do that.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Larry Yeager. I live in the Historic District. I'm on the Homeowners Alliance Waterfront Committee. Last October, the Boulders Alliance presented to the council, and they presented their master plan. The Historic District HOA formed a waterfront committee, and we replied with a 17-page report. Today's agenda has a slide with 6 bullets showing what the Boulders Alliance says are our concerns. For the record, we have a 17-page report. Those 6 bullets are incomplete and they inaccurate, and they certainly don't represent our position. If you want to know what our position is, it's in the 17-page report. I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to key on two key issues. First issue is long-term boat dwellers and long-term boat storage off Gilchrist Park. This was not a problem before we put in the dinghy docks. Before the dinghy docks went in, the waterfront was basically clear. I'm not saying there were no boats out there, but very few. The many problems associated with long-term boat dwellers and boat storage are detailed in our report. They include boats that are derelict, that sink, that break free or drag their anchors and end up aground or banging against the seawall. Speaking of boats aground, this morning there's a new boat aground. I have a picture. The picture is actually in our report because this boat has been anchored out there for years and it's now aground. The caption on our report that we had, again, not new, this isn't from today, is stored boat. It's been there for years, a failure waiting to happen. Well, it happened this morning. It's in the flats between the official notification. It's in the flats between Gilchrist Landing and Fisherman's Village. It's probably the worst boat that's been out there. I suspect it's been abandoned. It doesn't have any registration numbers on it. We've provided pictures of all the problems we've had associated with stored boats and with boat dwellers. One of the things we haven't put in our report is that last Thursday we had one of the boat dwellers who chose to parade around on deck in his birthday suit. We haven't given you pictures of that guy.
Thank you.
But if you want to check it out, Naked Guy's boat is the boat that's closest to the children's playground. We didn't have any of these problems before the dinghy docks in. The solution is really easy. Take out the dinghy docks or charge for their use. Issue number 2, the Boulders Alliance wants another mooring field. We have a mooring field. The East Mooring Field has not been a success. We've got 42 mooring balls in the East Mooring Field, In FY '18, we averaged 2 to 3 boats per night over the course of the fiscal year. In 2017, it was less than 2 boats per night, given that we have 43 mooring balls. Some say that the East Mooring Field was built in the wrong place because of the bridges. However, it's available to all power boats and the small sailboats. The only people that can't use the East Mooring Field are large sailboats. Missing from the Boaters Alliance Master Plan. To establish a mooring field, the Florida DEP requires what they call upland amenities. This typically means bathrooms, showers, a lounge, laundry. Basically, it's a visiting boaters clubhouse. It's not in their report. I don't know why it's not in their report. Do they not understand that that's a requirement? Or are they just choosing to bring it up after the master plan is approved? I don't know. We estimate the cost of the West Mooring Field, including upland amenities, is between $1 million and $2 million. Right now, Hollywood, Florida is establishing a mooring field with 29 mooring balls and the required upland amenities. They just increased their estimate from 1.8 to $2 million. The HOA is opposed to a West Mooring Field because another mooring field is not needed. Building on the YMCA Boat Club site would be very expensive. Waterfront park property in Gilchrist Park is too valuable to effectively give away to out-of-town boaters. We don't see a spare $1 to $2 million in Dover Coal's budgetary and economic analysis. But if the city does have a spare $1 to $2 million, we would rather see it benefit the citizens of Punta Gorda than spent on a visiting boaters clubhouse for out-of-town boaters wealthy enough to own a large sailboat. Anything new on the YMCA Boat Club sites should focus on Gilchrist as a community park. Maybe a fountain, certainly plantings, something serene. We should respect the park's historic character and promote a plan that's economically feasible. We shouldn't spend money that we don't have on things that we don't need. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. We don't, the rules, I'll remind the audience that the rules of conduct, we don't clap, applaud, or cheer for other people that are speaking. We respect each person and their ability to get up. There are other people in the audience that may not agree with that, so we want everyone to feel that they have the freedom to be able to express themselves. Thank you so much.
Rick Sarkeesian again. It was not specifically mentioned, but can I make a comment, a citizen's comment, in regards to appointments to the pickleball committee under regular agenda items? It's sort of, I mean, I'm trying to understand the agenda. It sort of looks like that is part of the regular agenda.
We can probably consider that as appropriate oversight.
You've already introduced yourself.
That was what I was gonna.
You want to, okay, go
Yeah.
ahead, please.
I'd like to comment on the pickleball committee. My recollection is the council discussions on the committee included a consensus that at least 2 of the members be pickleball players. That's not reflected in any of the minutes or agendas that came out after that. However, it seems quite logical that some of the members of the committee be pickleball players, and not just casual players, but ones that are intimately involved in the pickleball community. They should be knowledgeable all aspects of the sport and aware of the idiosyncrasies of what makes a good pickleball committee, a good pickleball facility. It also makes sense that they belong to the 600-member Peace River Picklers organization. Of the handful of committee applicants that have listed themselves as pickleball players, there are 2 that have the attributes I mentioned, along with the people skills and community experience necessary to successfully contribute to the committee. I've applied to the committee and be glad to participate, but I feel it's more important that Jeff Carmen and Deb Sarkeesian, who have those attributes that I just mentioned, be on the committee. Thanks.
And just by way of clarification, the items under the recommendation from city officers is actually under the regular agenda, so citizen comments would be appropriate for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification, David. Any other comments? Okay. Last call. We need to move on for the,
Gary Skillicorn. I'd like to comment on the Voters Alliance Master Plan. I think it's an outstanding job. Implementation of that would bring tremendous benefit. We are a waterfront community. We should be welcoming our visitors and think of the economic benefits we can gain from that as well, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get started now with our regular agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the award of the agreement to Marine Contracting Group.
Good morning, Ann Heinen, Procurement. The first item is a general marine construction service contract. It will be a 3-year agreement with an option for renewal. It is basically for repair and replacement of new channel markers, pilings, and other marine repair, small items.
Can I make a request?
Yes.
That you try to speak loudly. I think these microphones that are on the podium, the podia, they don't pick up people's voices very loudly.
No.
So I know that sometimes when you're speaking, I have to really listen, and I'm not hard of hearing, and I have to really intently listen. And I think that my concern is that there are other people in this room that may have the same issue. So if we can ask everyone to speak up, it would be helpful.
Certainly. The agreement will be time and materials. We have negotiated an hourly rate with the contractor, and also unit prices for the jackets for the piling projects that'll be coming forth. There will be also a markup of 7% in addition to the contractor's cost for any incidentals and hardware that would be necessary for that project. We anticipate the annual spend will be approximately $200,000. If there is one project for the piling that exceeds $50,000, then we will go out to bid for that project. But that is the intent for this contract. So staff does recommend the award to Marine Contracting.
Okay. Are there questions?
Who's currently doing this for us?
We do not have a contract in place for this type of work and the piling project, so that's why we wanted to go out for a contract. There was a channel marker project that we did previously that we had to piggyback the county's contract for that. So that's
Okay.
why we wanted to get one in place for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Is there discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of the agreement to Marine Contracting Group for general marine construction service.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the agreement to Marine Contracting Group for general marine construction services on an as-required basis. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries unanimously. Now, the second one is the appropriation of funds for project and award of CEI services for Alligator Creek pedestrian bridge.
Correct. Staff is requesting appropriation of funds for the Alligator Creek project, the pedestrian bridge project. The total project, this will be for particularly the award of the agreement for the CEI services to KCCS of Tampa, Florida. The total project, we're estimating the CEI services to be approximately $250,000. We've based that as a not-to-exceed contract based on the hours for the Alligator Bridge project and close out and getting the project started. This will be a not-to-exceed. It will be billed on a monthly basis with backup material for the actual costs. So it will be an actual not-to-exceed. The engineer of record cost, we're estimating $5,000 for Agnor and Campbell for engineer of record services. In addition, there will be material testing that we have an existing contract that we piggyback from Lee County for the material testing firms. So we will utilize that contract for the material testing during the project. Construction has been estimated at $835,000 based on the engineer's cost. staff is asking for a $10,000 contingency budget on top of the engineer of records estimate for the construction of the bridge. The grant funds that we are receiving from FDOT from the SunTrail agreement is $782,000. Therefore, the additional funds that we're asking to appropriate is $200,000 for the pedestrian bridge, and then appropriation of $125,000 again for the alligator project from 1% sales tax. So staff is recommending the award of the CEI service contract to KCCS of Tampa. And we're, again, asking for the appropriation of funds for the project.
Okay.
The appropriation of funds for the construction of the project is based on the engineer's estimate. So we are getting ready to put the bid out on the street for the bridge project. We received FDOT's approval of the construction bid yesterday. So if that does exceed the engineer's estimate, we will come back to council for additional appropriation of funds.
Questions, comments?
Just
Lynn?
one quick question. Under the section of our agenda item that says funds, it says that the money is being moved from the Cooper Street sidewalk project. Where is that project in terms of getting accomplished?
I'm not aware of the status of that project. That would be
Cooper Street
finance.
sidewalk project, it's going to be more, that's not the MERT. That's not the multi-use
understand.
recreation, nothing to do with that. This has to do with near the high school and the church. It's going to be a lot more extensive than we thought. So it's going to take a lot more time to get that project ready. So we need to move those impact fees over to this project to get this accomplished within the grant deadline.
And this grant from FDOT for this, the Sun Trails grant, will connect our MERT with other multi-use trails throughout the state of Florida.
Yes.
Any other comments, discussion?
Move approval of the appropriation of funds for the project.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the appropriation of funds for the project and award of CEI services for Alligator Creek Pedestrian Bridge to KCCS of Tampa, Florida. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Can we take 5 minutes, please?
A 5-minute break? Okay, take 5 minutes. It is, set your clock, calibrate your clocks. It's 10:29, so we'll be back at 10:34.
You will be back at 10:34, and you will love it.
What?
I said, we will be back at 10:34.
Good morning.
You will love it.
That's right.
It was
Or something.
a little harder than I thought. I'm not sure what it was.